Hi, this is James of Tabletop Gaming Guild, and today we're going to take a look at Beer and Bread. Beer and Bread is a two-player game designed by Scott Almes, one of my favorite designers. I just love almost everything that Scott Almes has designed, so I was super excited to check out Beer and Bread. And in this game, we are going to make my two favorite things, beer and bread. They're both wonderful. So, well, bread I really love. So, in this game, you're going to try to bake some bread and brew some beer. You're going to get points for your brewed beers, and you're going to get points for your baked bread. Whichever of the two is the lowest score is your score for the game. So you have to balance this all out. Let's go ahead down to the table. I'm going to show you how to play the game and do a little round. And then we're going to come back and I'm going to give you my final thoughts. All right, so this is Beer and Bread. In Beer and Bread, you're going to be playing over 6 rounds here, and at the end of the 6 rounds, you're trying to see which one of the two, either the beer or the bread, has the lowest score, and that's going to be your score for the game. The person with the most points at the end of the game wins. So, it's pretty obvious that you need to balance out completing your beer orders and completing your bread orders throughout the game. Set up the game's pretty easy. You're going to put this white disc up here. You're going to put a deck of cards that's going to be available for the players, and you're going to put out the water here. And you're going to start with a good year, which is going to be right here. And in the good years, which is the green here, and the red is going to be the lean years. In the good years, you're going to get the value or the number of resources that's shown on the left here. So for this one here, you're going to get 7 of these. I'm going to place 7 of them out. For these, you're going to get 8. So you put out 8 of these. For these, you're going to get 6. And for these, you're going to get 6. Now, I do keep forgetting what those resources actually are when I play this game, but I will go over those now. So these are water tokens. This is going to be your hops tokens. These are going to be your rye tokens. These are going to be your barley tokens. And on the far end right here, you're going to be your wheat tokens. So how do you play the game? Well, in the good years of the green, when you're on the greens, you're going to deal out 5 cards to each player. Now you notice that there's 2 different backs on these cards. So the blues are beers and the beiges are going to be breads. You will shuffle this deck completely together. So you won't be separating these cards out. So each player is going to get 5. You're going to randomly assign whoever gets the first player windmill. And then you're going to take a look at your hand. And when it's your turn, you're going to pick one of these cards to play. Now, let's say an opponent played a card, and now let's say I'm first, so I play a card, right? So I can play a card 3 different ways. One is I can get the resources across the top here. The second way is I can pay these resources here, and I get to make this beer or bread. And the third is I can put this in one of my upgrade columns, which is no limit on upgrades, and I can have this ability for the rest of the game. All right, so we're going to go over in a minute why you would want to do any of these 3 things, but let's start off with getting resources. So if I place this one down here for resources, I will get a water and a grain. And I get to place the water and a grain in my warehouse. My warehouse can only ever store up to 9. I can get upgrade cards to give more storage for my warehouse, but if I ever go over the storage of my warehouse, I have to pick which resources I want to keep, and the resources that I can't keep, I have to make them available for my opponent if they want to put them in their warehouse. So that is a big part of the strategy of the game, is managing your resources. And you might think that's pretty easy, but when you play another card, so let's say I play this card down for the resources, I would get these 2 blue waters, but I also get every matching resource above it. So I would get this one too. So I get 3 blue waters. And I might have only wanted 2, and now I have to place those in my warehouse. Another really good reason why you would want to put these down for resources on your good years is because these will go back to your hand at the beginning of the lean years. But I only get to play 1 card on my turn, so I played that. And the opponent did the same thing. They played this one for their 2 hops and placed them in there. Now, this is where you pay attention to what cards you have and what they actually need to have available, because you may want to, you're going to definitely want to be able to play these cards eventually to bake bread or make beer. And you may not want these special upgrade abilities to go to your opponent, but what will end up happening is I played a card, opponent played a card, we now switch hands. And this is only in the good years. Now I get the opponent's hand and I can take a look at these cards and I get to play one. So if I play this for the resources, I will get the 2 resources on here. And if I did that, then I would also get an additional wheat because they had one on a previous card. And this would also, keeping in mind that this card would come up next time. So part of the strategy in the good years is you could be playing these for resources, but also be playing them because you're going to try to complete them at the beginning of the lean years. So I could play that for that, or if I had the resources available in my warehouse, so let's just pretend that I did, I can play this card face up first to show that I have the resources available for it. So when I gain resources, they come from this field, but when I spend the resources, they go out back in the storage over here and they're not available in the round. My water goes back out in the river. Once I do that, I flip this card over. Okay, so unless I have an upgrade, I can only ever have 1 completed bread and 1 completed beer. So I have to keep that in mind. So I can't complete another beer at all unless I use a card for an upgrade. When I use a card for an upgrade, I take a look at this little symbol here, and I will slot that underneath that area of the board. And each of these do different things. This is Endgame Scoring. This is when you play an upgrade and what I'm going to tell you about cleaning up. And you get some bonuses. This one here is allowing you to be able to hold or do different things that have to do with these 2 little areas. But in general, they are for letting you hold more cards in either bread or beer before you clear them. But once I put an upgrade in, any of the cards that I have in the beer or bread section will get moved over here. And this gives you the ability for them to be scored at the end of the game. If you end the game and there's some cards here in these 2 areas, they don't count towards scoring. Only the cards you've cleared out and put over here do. So that's the important part of upgrading in the game. We're going to keep playing until we get down to our last cards, and we'll play the last cards, and then the round will end. When the round ends and we go into a lean year, so these red ones here, we are going to take the cards we've played. So let's say I played these 3. They would go to my hand, right? Then I would draw up to 5 cards. So I now have 5 cards again. I would then fill, after both players have their 5 cards, so I'll just give a card to the opponent, we would flip 3 cards over and they would go into these slots. We would also take a look at these numbers right here, and these supplies would be cut down to that level. If there's less in there, you would fill it to it, but in general, these are going to cut down your resources. So I only have 4 hops, I only have 4 of these, I only have 4 of those, and I only have 5 wheat. That's all that's available for the round, other than sometimes you can break the rules with upgrades. In addition, in your lean years, you do not swap hands. So we will take turns playing cards. But before I get into that, the other thing we'd check is we'd see who has the least amount of resources. I have the least amount of resources. So the windmill would go to me. If I already had it, it would stay to me. If we're tied for resources, the person that didn't have the windmill last round, it goes to them. And that's going to be the player that gets to play first. So in this case, I get to play first. I don't swap hands, so I know all these cards here are going to be my cards for the round. And we'll take turns playing those cards. So like I said, I can play it for its resources. So if I play this one for the resources, I'll get these 3 different resources. If I had the goods in my warehouse, I could set it down here and I can complete this order and then flip it over. I could then, or I could play upgrades. You don't have to actually have orders completed in here to play upgrades to sweep them off. You can just do upgrades like this one here. It gives me an additional storage unit. And that would go in this little sack area here. These ones have to do with harvest abilities. I forget what the sunshine ones do. So let's see if I have any of those here. Oh yeah, in the dry years. So they have to do with the different stages you're at in the game. You get different bonuses and stuff. So you'll be doing that. One thing that you definitely need to keep in mind is that you're trying to keep your point count about even. So I completed bread. I definitely want to complete this beer. And I'll slide these over, and next time I might want to focus on a higher point beer because like I said, at the end of the game, we're going to tally these up, and the lowest score is your score. So we're going to keep going until we're out of cards. Whatever cards we played for resources are going to get discarded. So all the cards that got played for resources get discarded. But one important thing I did forget that really is great in the dry years is these 3 cards here are available to players. So if I'm looking at my hand, I'm like, this card's a lot better. I can take this card, place it here, and get this new card. And when I get this new card, I have to immediately play it. But I can either do any of the 3 actions for it, but I play it, and that can be functionally better than what I was going to do. So this gives you a little bit of options. So I did forget about that. So yeah, these will get cleared off. Each player will have all their resource cards they played cleared off, and they all get discarded. Okay? You keep all the upgrade cards, you keep all the cards that are face down here, and you keep all the cards that were swapped. It's just any cards you had for resources and any of the cards that were here. Then we go into good year. We'll move up the resources to those higher values. We'll deal out 5 cards, and we'll do figure out who's the first player based on who has the least amount of resources, and we'll play a card and then swap cards, then play a card, then swap cards. And that is I play a card, opponent plays a card, then we swap cards. Then when all the cards are out, we're going to go into the next season, which is going to be the lean years, and we're going to keep on going until we go to the end. At the end of the game, it's really simple scoring. Basically, what you're going to have is you're going to have your added up points for your beer, your added up points for your bread, added up bonus points for your beer, and added up bonus points for your bread. And whichever of those 2 is the lowest score is your score. So I don't have a whole lot here, but this is really simple. I would have 14 bread and 6 beers, so my score would be 6. If I had any bonus point cards, I would add those up. A lot of the bonus point cards will be for either beer or bread, but some of them let you pick which one you bump up the score on. Those are really, really nice. So let me show you, let's get an example of one of the ones that does the scoring bonus here. Right here. So this one here says, at the end of the game, if you sold at least 1 card of each of the 3 types of beer, gain 2 extra coins for either beer or bread. So this is an example of one of the ones that you get to pick which side you go on. Now, you notice that these 3 different beers are just going to be the pictures here. So this is a different beer than this beer, and you have this beer here. So those are 3 different beers. And there's 3 different breads too. And there's scoring cards for if you have all 3 different types of breads. So in a quick nutshell, that is how you play beer and bread. Let's go ahead back up to the table here, and I'll give you my final thoughts on this game. So I love beer and bread. This is an amazing 2-player game, and I really love how interactive the game actually is. There's a lot of depth to this. I've played this game 6 or 7 times at this point, and I still feel like there's a lot of strategy that I need to learn for this game. I still feel that I'm not playing optimally. There's a lot more that I can unlock in this game. And it's super fun to play with an opponent and switch those cards back and forth. So you're like, oh man, do I want to put this 9 beer down and use the resources so I can pick it up in the lean years and my opponent doesn't hit it, or just slip it under there for its bonus ability. Because a lot of the 9-point cards are actually scoring bonuses at the end of the game. So maybe I don't have a beer and a bread that I've already set that I need to clear off. Maybe I do just want to put that down there so I can get some endgame scoring and deny my opponent the opportunity to complete this 9-point beer or bread. Or am I going to just go nuts and try to get all the low point beer and breads as fast as possible out and then score them? Well, not score them, but move them off to the scoring game, scoring portion of the board for the end of the game. Do I want to sort of race that? Or do I want to just work towards getting those big point cards and strategize on getting my resources properly to do that? This game is all about your strategy and how efficient you are with your strategy. You can pivot a lot in this game too, which is really nice. And I really like how each round changes. So I really like where you have that year of plenty, everything's going great, there's tons of resources, we're swapping cards back and forth. I just have to pay attention to what I'm getting my opponents and try to think what I might get back and build up my warehouse. In the lean years, I need to think, well, if I need the hops, there's only 4 of them, maybe I should get them before my opponent and deny them that resource. But I have to watch out because I don't want to overfill my warehouse and give them free resources to help them out in winning the game. I also like that in the lean years you have those 3 cards out and you can swap card play with it or swap that card and play that card. Really a lot of strategy to this game and a really wonderful 2-player game. Component quality is amazing in this game. I like all the little wooden bits. Card quality is great. Like the board, everything about component quality is amazing. Really good price point for this game too. So I would say that if you're looking for a great 2-player game to play with your friends, family, or loved one, this is a great game to check out, and that is Beer and Bread, designed by Scott Alms. Thank you for watching.